Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and especially on such an important topic of the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Saudi Arabia. In the rector's comments this morning, he said we're at the right place at the right time, and I couldn't agree more. The right place at KFU PM. And to look at what's happened within the entrepreneurial ecosystem at KFU PM in the last 5 years is just absolutely incredible. And you can see that in this building. You can see that by visiting with the entrepreneurs out in the foyer. And we're at the right time. The topic of collaborative entrepreneurship consistent with Vision 2030 is absolutely the right time. The progress that's been made at this university in the last 5 years matches the progress in Saudi Arabia over the last 5 years, and I'm looking forward with great anticipation to the next 10 years, and to a large extent that's what our panel will be talking about. And not only we have the right place at the right time, but I want to add that we have the right people, and we have the right people within this university, and I think we have the right people on this panel to talk about the entrepreneurial ecosystem, which is just so incredibly important to realizing the vision of 2030. The way we'll operate this panel today is really fairly simple. I'm going to ask each of the panelists. You can see their names on the screen, so I won't make those sorts of introductions. To briefly introduce themselves, and then speak for about 5 minutes on the entrepreneurial ecosystem from their own perspective. And the panelists represent a variety of perspectives, consistent with a variety of perspectives that are inherent within any entrepreneurial ecosystem. After that discussion, I'll ask the panelists to comment briefly on, if they'd like to, on any of the other discussions up to that point. And then for the last half of the hour, we'll open the floor to questions and comments from all of you to question the panelists or to add your own perspective on the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So with that introduction, I'll ask my colleague Joe Peckney to begin.
Well, thank you very much, Bob, and I'd very much like to thank the folks at KFU PM for inviting us to come to the Kingdom. This is my 4th year. I've been at other forums, and as I mentioned yesterday to Professor Musa, every year you guys outdo yourself in terms of accomplishments. Following Bob's prescription, let me first tell you briefly about myself. I'm a professor of chemical engineering at Purdue University. For those of you that don't know Purdue University, it's one of the major engineering schools in the United States. We're Boilermakers, and we're very much like KFU PM. KFU PM is a very technical school, very STEM-oriented. I've served many roles at the university. Besides being a professor, I've been the head of industrial engineering. I've been the director of entrepreneurship at the university, and my current role is director of what we call deliberate innovation. And deliberate innovation is about very carefully deploying resources to try to do as much good in innovation and entrepreneurship as possible. I also am an owner of a small company. It's a company that does algorithm engineering. It's a subject for another talk. What I'm going to do for my remaining time is really tell you what I see about the Saudi entrepreneurial ecosystem, at least over the last 4 years, and really what I want to say is that I'm going to say both positive and room for opportunity. And it's very important for entrepreneurs to also say the positive, because some of the times when you do entrepreneurship, it becomes fashionable to say the negative, and that seems very sophisticated. So the first observation about the Saudi entrepreneurial ecosystem is that you emphasize the positive when it's true, and you consider the opportunities for improvement in a very straightforward fashion. I've seen KFUPM do that in the last 4 years, which gets me very interested from a global point of view. That's one of the indicators that you are a world-class entrepreneurial environment. Okay, so a couple of observations along the lines of the positive. So what I'm holding up here, I got in my meeting yesterday, the Global Advisory Board meeting here at KFUPM from the EI, from the Entrepreneurial Institute. This is a case study in Arabic, okay? When I first came here, there weren't any case studies, and certainly none in Arabic. This is a very good sign, okay? This means that you're documenting success and documenting failure, and you're doing it in a way that can be taken up by the people who matter the most, your entrepreneurs, okay? So that's observation number one, that your system is evolving very quickly, okay? Professor Musa in the last 5 years has done what we at Purdue took 20 years to do. So you guys are running about 4 to 1. It's not bad. That's not bad. It's like it's a movie and fast forward. Observation number two, this is the Arab news. I get it at the Crown Plaza. I like to read it to figure out what's going on. And number one on the top is corporate bankruptcy bill will boost investment in Saudi Arabia. Now this actually speaks volumes about how well your ecosystem is doing. You might hear people say, oh, it's not going well, we're in trouble. Don't believe it. The fact that one of your major papers is talking about bankruptcy laws, that is awesome. That means that people can fail, and then they can come back to life again with what they learned, and eventually they'll succeed. The guy who endowed the Purdue Entrepreneurship Program, a guy named Burton Morgan, he always liked to brag that he failed 99 times before he succeeded. Okay, he says, but you only need one success. Okay, the other thing is the KFUPM forum. This is my last exhibit because I only have 5 minutes. But I would like to point out that if you read this, there's only 2 of us here from the outside world. In the first year, there were quite a few of us. And everybody here I've talked to is very sophisticated in entrepreneurship. That's probably my greatest evidence that you guys are in good shape. That doesn't guarantee you success, but that gives you a good chance, okay? Now, in terms of opportunities for improvement, because that's what entrepreneurs want, otherwise there's no market. You can't make any money if there's no room for improvement, right? So, first thing is, in order for you to achieve Vision 2030, in my opinion, you just have to do the low-hanging fruit, okay? Sure, you might create a world-class company in nanotechnology, world-class company using some kind of new energy technology. That's all possible, and you may make a lot of money doing that. But you can actually achieve all the goals of Vision 2030 by doing easy stuff, okay? And all the great entrepreneurs that I've had the great fortune to talk to in my life will tell you if you do the easy stuff well, your chance of success is good. So what is the low-hanging fruit, okay? Low-hanging fruit. Well, one of the things we're worried about in the U.S. Is immigration. You might read that in the news if you know at all about the U.S. And one of the things that it's important to power the economy is immigration. You can get easy economic growth if you let really smart people into your country, okay? Well, you guys have a great opportunity for growing your workforce. Women are going to get the opportunity to drive in 6 months. You have to do it the Saudi way, but if you integrate females into the workforce, you get an easy 50% improvement in workforce. That's easy economic growth, okay? But you have to do it your way. Entrepreneurship is all about empowering the individual. The individual has the opportunity to work hard. The individual has the opportunity to make money. The individual has the opportunity to make mistakes and learn from them and grow again. And since I'm here for 4 years, I feel comfortable saying direct to the audience. Islam is a tremendous source of strength for you. I see the discipline that you pray 5 times a day. that means you can apply that discipline to entrepreneurship, and discipline is a good thing for entrepreneurs because you got to work long hours before you succeed. Okay, another kind of macroeconomic sign of health is that you have the lowest oil production costs in the world, which means your marginal advantage in selling a barrel of oil means you'll have a continuing source of investment for your entrepreneurship. Once you adjust your budget, with that high marginal return on oil, since oil costs are very low to get out of the ground here, that means you're guaranteed to have investment for decades, okay? In terms of where the biggest opportunity for success is, in my opinion, is to learn how to tolerate failure, okay? That's a tough one, right? Nobody likes to lose. Entrepreneurs are usually type A people, so who likes to lose, right? I mean, that'd be like saying up here, I'll hit myself while I give this talk. You'd think I was an idiot, okay? So it's not that you should love failure, right? But you got to learn to tolerate failure, because if you take risk and you do things that are hard, even the best people are going to fail most of the time. So if somebody fails in a stupid way, maybe you don't like it. But if somebody's trying something that you deem to be very difficult, you should realize, you should take it into account in assessing that person's failure, okay? This is the hardest area for any entrepreneurial ecosystem. It's going to be the hardest area for the Saudis. It's the hardest area for the Americans. But you really have to learn to tolerate failure in the Saudi way. And I don't know what that is. I'm not Saudi, okay? Just a couple other items, and I'm going to turn it over. Do the easy stuff. Don't do dumb stuff. This sounds trite, but if you just do the easy stuff and don't do the dumb stuff, you actually get 90% of the way there, okay? Now, you could give a whole talk on either one of those. And the last thing I'm going to say for 10 seconds, 15 seconds is you got to do everything the Saudi way. If you go to Silicon Valley, you can't copy them. If you go to Purdue University, you can't copy them. Whale has done a masterful job at taking the best ideas from the world and turning them into the Saudi way, okay? So you do want to learn from the best, but then you always have to be the best at being yourself. All the great entrepreneurs do that. No entrepreneur ever copies another entrepreneur. I didn't see Steve Jobs copy any other entrepreneur, right? Henry Ford didn't copy anybody else. So the Saudis can't do it either. So you got to succeed the Saudi way. With that, I'll turn it over to my esteemed colleague.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wassalam ala Rasulullah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Doctor. I am Isam Al-Dhukair. I am the Vice Governor for Small and Medium Business Authority. I grew up in this campus, KFUPM, Bachelor and Master in Information System. I will start from the failure. So I failed 2 times, by the way. So I started my career as a Capital Market Authority. Then I moved to private equity and VCs. I started 2 ventures. Then I managed a VC fund before joining. I managed as well incubator in Saudi Arabia before joining Small and Medium Business Authority. From my position here as a representative of SIMIA, I just want to give and be an added value from a governmental point of view. Because I know I was an entrepreneur, I moved to be a VC, then I am now in the government positions. So I can see the full value chain of the ecosystems during the last 17 years. So what we did, SIMIA started before 1 year, visited more than 14 cities locally in Kingdom and more than 18 countries. We did a benchmarking and best practices for all ecosystems. What we figured out, and I want to start from here, is we found out that the most 3 challenge for ecosystem in Saudi Arabia, starting from bureaucracy, then the financing, the market data, and investors. So this is the main. So what we did in SIMIA, we take this 3 or 4 major elements, so which has a big impact to our ecosystems. We made an analysis, then we came up with 7 pillars for SIMIA to start with fill all these gaps. So by saying that Simya يعني started to enable and encourage people from all stakeholders with the ecosystems to help each others solving and wave off the all challenge for entrepreneurs. As you said, we have an ambitious and vision for 2030. I visited Japan before 2 weeks, and what is Japan exactly? Their success story in small and medium business and entrepreneurs, they know their competitive advantage. What is it? So knowing our competitive advantage, and this led by our Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, he said that we know our competitive advantage, the talent people here, our location in the middle of the world. So starting from here, we initiate more than 60 initiatives in all regions, in all sectors and business lines. My colleague Mohammed Al-Malki will explain more about the funding in the second panels. For entrepreneurship sectors, as I'm handling in the Simya, we have 4 business lines: the incubator and accelerators, which is we think the development of the ecosystem started from 4 years ago. There were only 2 incubators in Saudi Arabia. Now we can see almost 9. So we can see the increase of the ecosystems, and we need to encourage this and subsidize the people by not, we are not an operator and entities. We are enablers. I always say, no one smart than all of us. So our stakeholders is our success factors. We have a very good relation. We are building a good relation now with the universities and companies like SABIC, Aramco, all big companies. And we are welcome everyone, even entrepreneurs. We visited a lot of entrepreneurs before 2 and 3 years, even with our new governor. So what we figure out is the ecosystem, it's not only one equation. It's all stakeholders should be engaged together to go and to go to the objective for all of us to increase the awareness and empower people instead of solving all the challenge that in Saudi Arabia. I will explain more about what, inshallah, our plan in Munshaat will provide it within, inshallah, years. And hope to listen from you, because listening from the market is more important than working a sole or alone as a government entity.
Thank you, Hassan.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Khalil Al-Shafi. I'm the CEO and Managing Director of WAID, which is Saudi Aramco Entrepreneurship Venture Capital or Venture Company. My background, I'm also a graduate of KFUPM, a civil engineer. I did my graduate at University of Texas. I have been with Aramco since graduation, worked in many fields in Aramco, and especially in the research and technology area and innovation. So through my careers, always like I was the rebel of the organization. It's basically break the laws and make a new ones. Not to break them and do nothing, break them and make a new ones. So a lot of people don't know, like the venture capital in Aramco, actually the first time we pitched it was in 2004. And we have a team, we put everything together. But back then, a company did not have the appetite for venture capital, corporate venture capital. You put the money in, you don't know what, and high risk. So it took another 4 years. So in 2008, there was another study that's done, and from 2008 and 2010, when Aramco finally formed the first entity to start with giving loans, and not a VC, just loans for entrepreneurs who want to start manufacturing in an areas that the market is very clear, so there is no high risk. The customers are clear. Who is it? For example, if somebody want to build a factory in Eastern Province, The same factory exists in Riyadh. We know exactly what is produced, who is the customer, so we're just duplicating it somewhere else. Then later on, the VC came, which is investing in high-risk areas, innovation, technology, and these things. And then later on, they formed the incubator at WAAD. I joined WAAD last year, and the first thing I did, I went and visited all the other people who are in the same field, the incubators in Riyadh, Jeddah, Eastern Province, and I started just to understand what is the ecosystem is, what is the market is, what's going on. And as my colleague Assam said, I mean, the major thing was not clear of the regulation for entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs right now, they were treated like a big business. You need to do exactly the same paperwork with the government. You need to put whatever money or whatever. I mean, it was too complicated. So a lot of them, they start running away, going to Dubai, register their companies in Dubai, and then coming back and working in Saudi. Because at the end of the day, the market is here. It's not in Dubai. It's not in any, all the other Gulf countries, really small for their market. So they have to come back again. When they come back, with the way the structure of their company, even make it more difficult for us to invest in their company because it's not set up properly, would lead us into actually problems with the government because it sounds like you are investing in a company that's hiding their money somewhere else. So a lot of these regulations that need to be changed, and over the last 3 years, a lot of things have changed. I mean, we have been very vocal and clear with the Munsha'at, with the Ministry, with MOKI, with SAGIA. So last year we signed an agreement with SAGIA that they give us actually an account manager, and they get a letter from any entrepreneurs who work with us. They go to SAGIA, and SAGIA did a fantastic job. I mean, they really fulfilled their promise. Within a week or two, the entrepreneur got his license. But still, there were areas were still difficult. They still need to be fixed because still entrepreneurs treated like big corporations. The same thing with MOKI. We had several meetings in Riyadh, and a lot of the changes happening it also has to do with a lot of us coming forward, and they have been asking. This is how the landscape changed in Saudi. The government asking us, tell us what do you want to change? Tell us, and we're gonna make it happen. And that's what they see, like the bankruptcy laws, all these things is coming from us. So this is the first time, like we are not sitting by ourselves, and the government people are sitting by themselves, and everybody tried to guess what the other wants. So it's changed. There is now more communication, more interaction, more collaboration, and it's always refreshing when you sit. I mean, what Assam said, I heard it from the Minister of Commerce himself. He said, yes, our regulation sucks, it's slow, we're going to fix it. And that's just admitting that means really there is a lot of efforts going on to get it fixed. And when it comes to the ecosystem now, if we say, what is an ecosystem? We keep saying a Saudi ecosystem or whatever. It is like, I can refer that as what's his name, Victor Wang, in his book, The Rainforest. He said the ecosystem, the healthy ecosystem is like a rainforest, and then you have the other one like plantation. So the difference between the two, plantation is very well organized. You have trucks, you know exactly what the product is. We know when is the time to get your fruit from it, when to plant it. So everything is clear. That's a plantation. The ecosystem is like a rainforest. A tree falls down, new trees come right from the tree that fall down. They live on each other. The whole, the insects, the animals, the plants, they all live on each other. There isn't anybody living by themselves. While a plantation, everybody has his own farm, put his own fence, and nobody need to allow to come close to him. So that's kind of, when we look at the Saudi ecosystem, it is kind of a combination of the two, which doesn't work, because you cannot have a plantation middle rainforest, because one of them needs to take over the other sooner or later. Even you keep cutting up your rainforest to make a place for your plantation, or if you leave it go, the rainforest will take over. So if we're going to build up an ecosystem, we need to keep that in mind. As universities, each university, they say they have an ecosystem, but it is within their own walls. It does not go beyond. So King Fahd University have their own ecosystem. King Saud have their own. KAUST, they have their own. Everybody has his own, but they're not linked. They're not connected. I keep mentioning all of my discussion and panel. I give the analogy of being like an aquarium. Everybody has his own aquarium, not connected. So one of the major things to build this ecosystem, it has to be connected. And it's not all about academia. A healthy ecosystem should have the government in it, the lawyers in it, investors in it, founders in it, technical people, people with experience, people in the business. It should be part of this, should be linked in a natural way. If you feel like you need to make a meeting to bring everybody in, that means you're still not there. We need to still work at it. We just still need to be way more natural. So one of the things we have been doing in Fahd, we decided wherever we go in any meeting, we start collecting names and then building up a database. So right now in our database, I think we have more than 200 professionals in all different aspects. And we're building up this database so we can link those professionals to entrepreneurs. So tomorrow an entrepreneur, he needs something, he can just go to our website and he see what disciplines he needs as support. You just click on them, set up a schedule with him or with her and have that meeting. So it's, things change, a lot of things change over the last 5 years, even more over the last 3 months. So even at Fahd, we're stepping back, we're looking at our own strategies and how really we can capitalize on these recent changes. The government is to give you the regulation, set up the policies. We need to do the execution. And for us to do the same, we have to be working hands in hands, not to sit separately waiting for the government to finish. When they send you, then you start screaming, this doesn't work for me. And then you send it back again. So it doesn't work like that. So that's what I say.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and very happy to speak in front of all of you. Maybe I will take you a little bit away from what my colleague said and just try to have a dialogue between myself about why we are now very concerned about the ecosystem. And as an engineer, we always like numbers. So I will come to you from number point of view. I would like to recall your memory on the Vision 2030. It has been announced June 2016, so maybe somebody forget some of those numbers, but because currently I am the head of the local content and business development in SABIC, these numbers I am putting it every day in front of my office. The country targeting to move from 40 to 60% contribution of the private sector. This private sector is 99% small and medium enterprises. The country would like to move from the export contribution of non-oil from 16 to 50. And the same, the Kingdom would like to move from 20 to 35 contribution of SME in the total GDP of this country. I said in my speech today that in G20, and if you like to go to G30, Saudi Arabia is the only country, the contribution of the SME in GDP and in job creation is below 50. We are almost 20 to 25, and our SME friends, they are much more familiar in these numbers. What this number mean trillions. I was sitting with our CFO team, means trillions. Only to go 16% to 50% in the non-oil export, it's required 1.3 trillion real additional. So looking to all these numbers, how we will be able in the country to achieve it, we made some little math in SABIC and we find out that Saudi Arabia need to do in the next 5 years same to what they done in the last 50 years. So we need to do 10 times in the next 5 years if we would like really to achieve those numbers which I am telling you. And this is the reason why I'm sitting and we all now discussing this ecosystem. Then if we would like to talk about ecosystem, and I would like just to give 2 examples for everybody just to understand what this mean about ecosystem. Aramco was started long back, and they were flaring very, very precious gas. And 2 or 3 came from US, from our memory. Always we are remember them, Dr. Ghazi al-Qasaibi, Mr. Al-Zamil. They came and they decided that we need to do something with this gas. What they did, they simply start the Royal Commission, start SABIC, build an ecosystem, and in 30, 40 years, SABIC currently is number 4 company in the petrochemical in the world. So what is this ecosystem? It's the regulation, it's the enabler, it's the national champions, it's the financing agent, is an institution in order to produce the talent which everybody needs. So do we have a problem in this now, and why we are talking always about this ecosystem? And why SME now, authority, they are doing a lot in order to enhance this? The major problem what I see in the ecosystem that the whole country have been structured to support big corporation. So if you go to the regulation is only supporting big corporation. This is why the SME authority, most of their activity, and you heard from Isam, is how we can bring a regulation which can support and foster the SME. Financing, if we are looking to our financing is available in Saudi Arabia, private banking, the calculation we heard from the SME authority that only 2% from the private banking is going for the SME, which is 99.2% of our private sector, which means the whole private banking is only supporting 0.8 of our private sector in Saudi Arabia. That means a big change needs to be done, otherwise we will never be able to face it. Enabling ecosystem, I think we had a great move when we had an SME authority last year, and we heard what SME authority is doing. But our big problem currently, that enabling system has a lot of authorities. And I remember I was talking with one of my colleagues in the SME authority, and he said, Fuad, if I would like to do one step, if I would like to lobby one action, I need to coordinate with more than 40 to 50 entities in Saudi Arabia. That means coordination between this enabling ecosystem is very important. The institution, for us in SABIC, we believe that what may not make us in Saudi Arabia achieving our 2030 is the available talent in order to take up this. And unfortunately, our institution currently, it's not matching the fast track of the development in the world. And what will happen? Aramco, when they would like to do anything, they are making their own academy. You can easily check. Aramco currently have almost 15 academy which produce those people which Aramco need. SABIC has an institution for plastic, institution for rubber, SABIC Academy. So we have no real belief on the current institution system. I am talking about a specialized institution system which can help the private sector development. And finally, the regulation, and we can see that regulation is being improved. But one important thing which we would like to see how we, inshallah, in Saudi Arabia, we will be able to catch that the regulation improvement, development, the correction is much faster than the adaptation of our private sector. And everybody see now that everybody is claiming that all regulation which we are bringing now in the private sector is killing the private sector. In reality, it's not killing, but it is too fast, and our private sector is not able to adapt. So we need to find a way how we can assure that our regulation shift, which we are doing in order to go to the right destination, it's going along with the development of our private sector in order not to make the mess. We basically benchmark ourselves with all developed countries in the world, like Korea. We all know that Korea started their vision 30, 40 years back. They developed the right ecosystem. The only things which was missing in their ecosystem is the national champions. They built the right national champions, LG, Samsung, and all those national champions which can drive the ecosystem to the right destination. I believe Aramco, Sabic, and all Ma'adin and STC now, they recognize that those numbers which I am talking about is very difficult to be done by the government, very difficult to be achieved without those national champions. If national champions will play a role with the regulators, with enabler authority, with the institution for education, with the financing agent, this 5 pillar, it will definitely help the whole country to achieve those trillions which require to be done from now up to 2030. And I hope that later on in the discussion we can elaborate more on those pillars, which is very important for us to achieve our target numbers, which I already highlighted at the beginning.
شكرا جزيلا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. It is a great pleasure to speak before you today, and also a great pleasure to be among this interesting and exciting panel. My name is Wissam Maghrabi. I'm a lawyer and legal advisor. I'm also a partner in Sami Maghrabi Law Firm, and 40-year-old law firm. And I will come to that. Why did I mention the number of years? I'm also an entrepreneur. Through the years of our law firm, we've served a lot of entrepreneurs. We know how the ecosystem works since 4 decades ago, at least we can say. I'm going to talk about my perspective on the ecosystem from a legal background. Me as a lawyer speaking and looking at the legislation and looking at the current solutions that are available, and how are entrepreneurs adapting and evolving. Since it is an ecosystem, it is normal to have evolution and adaptation, and agree with the colleagues that have mentioned that as well. So with an entrepreneur in head, being defined that it is a person who puts together a plan to start a business and operates that business and run it at any risk. And usually it is a very high risk. When you ask an entrepreneur, why are you jumping out of an airplane without a parachute, he will actually answer you 90% of the time that I will make the parachute on the way down. What he doesn't know that the ecosystem can have areas of safety nets that he can land in. And these safety nets are resembled in the legal solutions that the entrepreneur can actually adopt from day one and make sure that he's in alignment with the available risk mitigation and risk saving solutions that are available in his own ecosystem. Now, with that said, also I agree with the Huffman Foundation says that in entrepreneurship, you have to think big, start small, and move fast. And most of entrepreneurs by nature do that. But in order to have this equation produce an equal of success, you need to establish yourself as an entrepreneur from day one on a strong legal basis. You have to choose the correct way of incorporation, separate yourself as an entity, as a person, from the entity that is going to operate the entrepreneurial business, and then protect your IPs, because these are going to be your added values whenever you want to go to a shareholding company, be listed on the stock market or the secondary market. And after all, you have to secure yourself with the available tools that are available to minimize the risk of defaulting debt. Also, as an entrepreneurial ecosystem, you've asked this a question, Dr. Robert, in an email you sent to us. How do you see the ecosystem? I see it as a natural ecosystem. It is evolving, it is moving forward, and as most of the scholars have resorted to, that a government cannot create an ecosystem, but it can actually support an ecosystem to grow and be sustainable and evolve into a better one. So this is what we're seeing right now in the Saudi ecosystem. The government is providing the tools, the speedy processes, the legal system that guarantees that the entrepreneurial ecosystem is a one that is possibly going to evolve and develop into something better, something that is going to achieve the numbers that my colleague here spoke about. Now, in order to answer the second question that you had, Dr. Robert, is about what stakeholders do you think that are involved in the pushing forward of the entrepreneurial ecosystem development. I think from my perspective, it is the legal system, starting with the lawmakers and going all the way to the legal service providers. The lawmaker is doing its good share of improving the laws, introducing new laws, easing up the processes. Although that I agree that it is still in its beginning, people are not actually coping with the fast movement, and they need to find a way to adapt to that. Add to this the new bankruptcy law. Thank you very much, Dr. Joseph, for mentioning that. It is an interesting new law that will give the entrepreneurial ecosystem the ability to fail and come back again with minimum damage. There is also within the law special provisions for small to medium-sized companies, and I think SEMA is going to be responsible for drawing up the bylaws for that law and decide which are the SMEs that are going to be extra protected by the bankruptcy law. In addition to all of this, I think that the lawyers are involved as stakeholders in the health of the ecosystem. The lawyers have to be very clear on providing entrepreneurs with tailored programs that will enable them to incorporate in the right way, that gives them the room for expansion and growth while being protected at the same time. And also to have links with the various ecosystems. And I agree with Mr. Khalid Shafi that lawyers are responsible as long as they are connecting with all the ecosystems and knowing the needs of the entrepreneurs in the unique Saudi system. Again, Dr. Joseph, thank you very much. And provide the tools for them to be able to grow and evolve. I would like also to conclude my words with thanking the university and the Entrepreneurial Institute for inviting me here today. And when it's time for interaction and answering questions, I would love to interact with some of the statements my colleagues here had to say. Thank you.
Okay, I want to thank the panel very much for their thoughtful comments. And while you're thinking of your questions or comments for us, I'm going to ask the panel members if you have a very quick comment on some of the things the other panel members have said that you want to react to.
Yeah, I do.
I would encourage that. Yes.
I do. Thank you very much, Hussam. Honestly, you are totally right, because what is SIMIA responsibility, it's in two different areas. It's the small and medium business, the existing small and medium business, and the entrepreneurs. So we understand that the small and medium business nowadays, with the new regulation and new fees and new changes in the market, they have their own challenge to sustain, to grow, to scale. So we do have a different aspects and even solutions for both area. For the small and medium business, the challenge, back to Dr. Robert's question, is we should maintain, because we understand that the contribution to the GDP right now is 20% to the GDP. Our mission as a country to reach 35%. So with the new regulation, with the new challenge, with the new area transformational for small and medium business, our role is to maintain the small businesses and grow them up through second market, through even export product. For the entrepreneurs, honestly, entrepreneurs, they want to just try. So they have an idea, they want to do the MVP, so they are also, they want a place that they can try. So the community itself, the ecosystems, it consists of regulation, community, mentorship, funding, and all of these elements. So through SIMIA, we want to enable and encourage failure. We need people sometimes to fail, because we know that failure will the average success people in Silicon Valley, for example, they failed 3 times before they success. So we need to encourage failure. It's okay to fail, but it's not okay to stop trying. So by our stakeholders, by our people, by even the entrepreneurs, we want to create this in each element. So in regulation, we want to partnership with you guys and 10 like you guys. And the financing, we want to partner with banks, with VCs, on incubator and accelerator. We are talking about even international players. So our role, honestly, is to enable all the stakeholders, then make it run by itself. If there is anything, obstacles, this is our role to solve it. We describe ourselves as the lawyer for entrepreneur, in front of all obstacles regarding other entities, or locally or international. So we are helping people now going to, even for investment space, to Silicon Valley. We are helping them, honestly. So I just want to comment on this. Thank you.
Okay. Other comments from the panelists?
Yes, please. I would
One
like
more.
to comment
Okay.
also on Assam and elaborate on what this panel has come to conformity to. Treating SMEs like big corporations and natural ecosystems of a forest to a plantation is sometimes unfair to the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And I would like to just make a note here, and especially to you, Sam, because you do have the channel and ability to connect to the authorities and move this message forward. The entrepreneur system in Saudi Arabia, as per the studies, employs about 53% of the workforce.
Sure.
So and until now we haven't seen any development in that area. I would like really for the SIMIA to intervene and see a solution. As per an example is the bankruptcy law. The bankruptcy law has differentiated between incorporations, big corporations, and small and medium-sized companies. So we would like to see that as well in the implementation of the labor law, have a more free engagement of employee-employer relationship, especially for the entrepreneurial part, where they cannot take the hit of a labor case. Maybe they will go bankrupt because of one labor case.
Sure.
And but while the bigger corporations can actually take it well and pay off whatever penalties there are, and pay off the employee for unjustified termination of the contract. But entrepreneurial businesses, it is going to be a big issue to them if they had to pay the minimum, 7-6 salaries till the end of the year, for example, if you terminate on a limited period contract. So we really would like to see an involvement in this area of the law. Thank you.
Okay. Any other panelist comments? Yes.
Only things which I would like just to comment on what Assam and my colleague said, that SME authority, they have really very big responsibility. Again, the country was structured for big corporation, from regulation, financing agent, from everything. Now we are bringing SME, and we said we would like you in 12, 13 years to go and to do whatever we supposed to do in the past 50 years. That means the SME authority, they need really to work 25 hours per day. This is my recommendation in order to be able to achieve it. So if I saw any of SME leader sleeping, that means I know that we'll never achieve it. This is my
Let me add just one comment. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Shenzhen City in China. Okay, I mean, Shenzhen City in China is called the Silicon Valley of hardware. And I mean, if you go there or if you want to Google it, it's amazing. It is a rainforest, a real rainforest of a human being and technologies. Before that was formed, it was a dead city. There wasn't anything there. And then when the president of China visited, he said, "This is not good. We need to do something." So everybody screamed at him, "Yeah, we need to change our regulation." He said, "No, no. The regulation is not what we need to change. We need to change the whole policy." So what he did, he turned the whole area into a free trade zone. A free trade zone by all its means. You do whatever you want. You want to copy, you go copy. You want to copy Apple iPhone, go and do it. You want to copy Samsung. So it's became amazing. Like I was watching the other day documentary on it, and this guy who is like has a shop and making an Apple phone with all Apple logos, better than Apple phone in many aspects that as a customer want. Has 2 batteries instead of 1, had 2 SIM cards instead of 1, but when you open it, look like Apple. So for you as a customer, it's like, I don't need all the other sophisticated things that Apple has, but I like to have 2 SIM cards and I like to have 2 batteries because most of the Chinese, that's what they're looking for. So they take a lot of things that other people are doing and turn it around. So you find, and they have a rainforest system that there isn't one person doing everything. One guy will do the screen for you, and then he'll give it to his friend to do the second part, and then his friend give it to his friend. So basically everybody is working, everybody's making money, and nobody like trying to do everything and turn it into a plantation. And that's I think like as a government, it's really to think is, am I trying to build a plantation or am I trying to do a rainforest? I want to do a rainforest, then don't worry about regulation. Cancel them. Don't make a new one. Ignore them. Say, okay, we're going to make a free zone somewhere that there is no regulations. And you as investor, you're at your own risk. You want to go invest? Be my guest. Don't come scream at me. So that's what will build up. That will kind of let you break through the mindset of fixed regulation, make a regulation, doesn't work, come back 5 years, it didn't work, fix it again. It doesn't do it. So the decision we need to make, do I need a plantation or do I need a rainforest? Keep the lawyers away.
Lots of questions. Feel free to address it to one panelist or the panel in general. Yes.
Here.
1, 2, yes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Muhammad Al-Ansari. I wear so many hats, so I'm not going to say which one, but I'll be proud of saying that I'm a graduate of Aramco, have my own business as entrepreneur, and I work part-time with the government senior. Okay, that's a good start. Now, I thank you, the panelists. It was a great addition to what you said, but I want to share with you 4 areas I would like you to comment on and probably challenge some of the thought that we have talked about over here. 1, I think if we are to talk about ecosystem, we got to focus on developing capabilities of entrepreneurs and their skills. And believe me, that could address so many issues. 2, we need to sort of, in a way, celebrate more of the success stories that are currently happening and bring them to the surface, not to burn them, but share more. 3, we need to go ahead and concentrate more on developing more mentorship platform. All the success stories that you hear, as someone he said that I tried and maybe I failed, And so many of the entrepreneurs that you're probably going to hear, they will tell you that either they had somebody who helped them prevent making the same mistakes, and that's the greatest thing that can happen. If you look at 10 stories, how many of them reach the market? You're probably going to hear 1 or 2. But if there were mentors behind them, I guarantee you 5 of those 10 would get to the market. 4, I need to go ahead and say that we need to believe in the future. What we are going in Saudi Arabia in the past 2 years, it took us 30 years to talk about. And we were able to change a good part of them in 2 years. Let's believe that the green going to be happening in the future. I would just like to hear some of the comment from the panelists. Thank you very much.
It's hard to disagree with any of those positive comments, but I give the panelists the challenge. Joe?
I want to especially emphasize how important it is for the university system to achieve what you said. The young people are the ones that are going to live this their whole lives. They're the ones that start with a clean slate. What's going on at KFUPM here is really magical. There's a lot of entrepreneurship going on here at the university. Case studies, I mean, the Arabic case study, that's really the success story that you mentioned. You just need to write more of them up. But I would say that the Saudi university system is key to achieving what we've talked about and what you've talked about. So I think we've got to get behind these universities.
Let me move to the next question. Yes.
Khalid Al-Uthman, I'm here coming from Riyadh for this interesting forum. And I also wear a lot of hats, but I introduce myself as CEO of Mubadara Development Company, which is a business development venture capital platform. And we believe we are one of the few, if not the only, in Saudi Arabia. And I have the honor of joining hands with SABIC, and we do believe with the mission that SABIC and Nusanid is doing, and we hope that you really make a change. But I remember, and I recall also your memory, Fuad, that when we were discussing the collaboration, and we said that with the Vision 2030, now that we are all happy that we do have a vision, but if we don't change, the vision will be achieved in 2020, not 2030. And that would be worse if that figure was Hijri, not even Gregorian. But there are a lot of controversies here. And one of them is that I think there is a misunderstanding or maybe a lack of definition of the difference between innovation and entrepreneurship. I hope that you, from the American experience, can maybe shed some light on that. I hope that you guys in Simia have a clear definition of those, because entrepreneurship to a lot of entrepreneurs is very much about cupcake companies and things like that. And how much is, and on the other hand, innovation in the form of IPs and patents lies on the shelves, not commercialized. And so how can we really link innovation and entrepreneurship to a real change of quality innovation, quality entrepreneurship, rather than just putting up together more CRs in the market that are not really creating value to the economy? I very much like the differentiation between an ecosystem and a plantation, but I think we need both, because again, an ecosystem being a random, a natural growth of something, really opens doors for manipulation that needs to be controlled. And I'm trying to create the balance here between the plantation and the ecosystem. We do need lawyers, but we don't need too much legal. We need legal advice, not attorneys who actually put more obstacles. I was talking.
We're not jumping to litigation.
Yeah. with a colleague here in the room, we're talking about venture capital, and the notion was we don't have a venture capital law yet. And to my belief, that doesn't really hinder the practice of venture capital. We don't need a law to regulate something until it's regulated. We can practice venture. Actually, to my belief, in many cases with Saudi Arabia and the Arab region, usually regulations follow the practice. Regulations arise to regulate the current practice that is going on. The problem, to my belief, and again I go back to Fuad, it's very interesting definition of the elements of the ecosystem. But the problem is that they are all independent islands. No link. We need the ecosystem is actually where it links those elements and stakeholders to a constructive, cohesive performance of the whole ecosystem. Therefore, and again, I'll go back to the Korean example. Korea, after the 30, 40 years of making their way to maybe the number 7 in the G20, they found out three years ago that they don't have innovation. They don't have enough innovation. And they decided that they want to initiate and establish what is called the Ministry of Innovation. And again, I learned that from that experience. And when we talk about the ecosystem, we need a manager for that ecosystem. And unfortunately, SIMIA, being seen as the voice of the SMEs in the ecosystem, but they don't have the teeth. We need a regulator, a player that actually manages the whole ecosystem rather than just try to convince being under the Minister of Commerce has actually limits its power and impact on the change and the management of the ecosystem. I think one of the main recommendations that may come out from this interesting forum is the call for establishing an entrepreneurship and innovation authority that has the power, the enough power, the sufficient power to make an impact on the management.
Thank you. I'll ask for a comment, but we've opened up questions that could fill another forum. So we're close to the end. So if there's a quick comment, appreciate it.
Just a quick comment. Again, I mean, it's to close my comments, I will say to Fuad and for Assam, don't work 25 hours to make up a new regulation. Work 1 hour, cancel as much as you can, okay? And that will be much better for everyone.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna take the chair. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I'm gonna take the chair's prerogative, though, to sort of summarize, and our panel will be here throughout the day. So feel free to ask questions individually. If I could summarize, I'd say three themes have developed out of the conversation of the past hour: a rainforest, regulation, and failure. All three of which are huge themes that are being addressed. The rainforest, I see, there's public and private, there's academic and real world, there's large and small, and as long as we continue to focus on the rainforest elements of all those different ecosystems existing with each other, I think we're on the right track. The regulatory environment is clear. Let's not put things in the way of entrepreneurs succeeding. And whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's a cookie factory, or whether it's an innovative idea, the same ideas of not putting artificial barriers in the way of entrepreneurial success. And finally, the ability to fail, which is certainly as much cultural as it is legal. But I think we're certainly moving in the right direction there. And with that, I'd like to thank the panelists for their contributions and thank KFUPM for the invitation to do this. Thank you.